Hello, so we're going to do a quick look at how to do some glass painting. So first thing I want you to do when you sketch it out is to kind of very lightly outline your tones, outline your hard highlights, so that when you go back through it, you'll be able to sort of paint around them. We're going to work from lightest to darkest. I'm going to add in some of our background details so that you can, in this picture it's monotone, so I'm using it as an opportunity to sort of swatch out my shades at the same time. I'm going to try to blot my colors as I go on that little scrap paper next to my palette so you can see the clean color before I apply it. So this bottle is all in different shades of grays, blue grays, green grays, but you can see it's got that really bright highlight on the outside and then a reflected highlight on the other side and a couple of shadows that define the outline of the shape. I'm going to use a pretty dark color to do just a couple of those hard outline shadows so that as I paint I've got something to sort of tell me where I'm at. They will soften the more times I go over them with different layers, but I'm also not putting them in as dark as they'll be when I finish. It's just sort of a darker mid-tone right now. So on this side of the bottle, it is really a tight, hard, definite line between the highlight and the shadow along the edge. On the other side of the same highlight, it's a little softer. So here we're gonna put it in pretty dry and a straight wash there. When we do the other side, we'll soften the edge with some clean water. Now while those areas are wet, you can add in some variation, add in some different shadow colors, and they'll still be pretty soft. As you can see, since it's wet, sort of getting that wonderful diffused starburst effect, doing some of the work for me. So I'm going to use a lighter mid-tone to do this center shadow on the bottle and keep it really soft on the outside edge. And by soft, I mean I'm going to use a clear, clean water wash to soften the edges to make it kind of blend into the white of the paper. While that's drying, we can go ahead and start working on putting in some of our background. And you can see that we're sort of just creating a lot of the same tones. So since it's a really monotone piece, we're working on creating balance throughout the piece. So we're wanting to make sure that, we're sort of supporting the tones that are in the page, the reference picture, but also using them to define the space without losing, difference of depth. So I've applied a wash just to sort of another pass to darken everything in about the same colors. And then I'm going to use a little rubbing alcohol. As you can see, there's a couple places up here that have there's little droplets. So I'm using the rubbing alcohol to just push around and to create some watery highlights on a very fine tip brush to really help us preserve those lights. So we will let that dry. So we're going to go back through. It's just a lot of building up. Darkening those outside shadows, the ones that define our shape. Adding just a little more depth around where the glass got very thick in the bottom here, in the bottom of the bottle. The thicker your glass is, or if it's toned, or if it has warps in the shape, it's going to get some more interesting deep shadows. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're working through, and know that you can always go back over them over and over until you get them into where you want. Especially working with glass or things that have to have a lot of control to maintain the highlights, it's nice to be able to just sort of wait on it to dry and keep doing another pass. So on the bottom of those little bubbles up there, I've added a little shadow. to pop out those little tiny bubble areas. And you can see that as I push my shadows darker, it's making my highlights seem brighter because of the contrast. So it's helping us tell the story that we want to tell. And then keep in mind things are always going to dry a little lighter than they are when you put them on the paper. So, you know, aim for your darker colors, but also remember that it's just going to dry just a touch lighter. Especially if you're working with more water, it seems to diffuse a lot quicker. Just adding a bit of the wood texture into this base here just to sort of round out the picture. And then noting that some of the shadows on the wall should be about the same color as the darker shadows that are in the glass, the bottle, so creating some balance by bumping those up. I'm not overly worried about the wall since this is just a demo for the glass, but it's nice to help us see the level of color. So for final touches, I like to go through with a pencil, maybe pop out a couple of little sharp details. Watercolor can get a little softer on the edges, so this really helps us firm some stuff up. It's especially nice to use in the more textured areas like around the wood and the edges of things. And that should do us. So that is how I would tackle painting your glass. Light to dark, preserve your lights. Good luck.